Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Alhamdulillahillazi anzala ala abdihi alkitaba wa lam yaj'al lahu iwaja. Wa usalli wa sallimu ala rasulihil karim wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Timbalan Perdana Menteri Dato Sri Zahid dan Dato Sri Fadilah, Menteri Luar Saudara Zamri yang berkadir, yang banyak memberikan dorongan dan galakan, Saudara Tan Sri Zuki, Ketua Setiausaha Negara, Menteri-Menteri, Ketua-Ketua Setiausaha, rakan-rakan, termasuk yang mulia Duta-Duta Besar dan Pusatjaya Tinggi yang ramai pada hari ini, rakan-rakan saya muliakan. Cadangan kita adalah menggalakkan wacana. Sebab itu disebut discourse. Kerana kita bukan menganjurkan pertentangan, kita menganjurkan kesefahaman. Dan seringkali saya mulakan dengan mengingatkan bahawa walaupun temanya itu Islamophobia, ya, kerana kebetulan ia menjadi suatu permasalahan besar dengan kebangkitan faham perkauman sempit, racism atau fascism. Ada yang dikatakan ekstrim kanan yang muncul di beberapa negara, tetapi juga mengajak perbincangan dan wacana supaya cara kita jawab dan respon kepada masalah ini juga berdasarkan wacana akliyah, tradisi akliyah, reason, discourse, ya. Bukan enmity atau permusuhan yang berlarutan. Sebab itu saya ucap penghargaan yang setinggi-tingginya kepada kawan-kawan. Orang menggunakan Islamophobia ini, walaupun dia bukan perkara baru. Semasa Lord Allenby menakluki semula Jerusalem atau Baitul Maqdis, dia gunakan ungkapan yang sangat menyentuh perasaan umat Islam. Dia kata, now we have won the crusades. Jadi seolah-olah bagi dia itu bukan pertarungan politik, kenegaraan dan jajahan, tetapi penerusan pertarungan ratusan tahun dalam pertembungan di antara Islam dan Kristian. Kemudian penjajahan. Dan kita tahu semua penjajahan itu untuk membawa tamadun baru, civilizing mission, dan kadang-kadang membawa sekali aliran Kristian. Dan ini menjadi pertarungan akhirnya yang menjawab di kalangan umat adalah melihat kekuatan Barat dan agama Kristian. Tapi yang sebenarnya yang kita anjurkan dalam perbahasan Islamophobia ini bukan melawan Barat, melawan penjajahan, melawan imperialisme, melawan penindasan ketidakadilan yang berlaku. Jadi sebab itu dalam wacana ini hal-hal ini harus ditekankan. Dan bila mereka bawa seperti mana Lord Cromer di Mesir, ya, yang mau merubah rupa dan jiwa umat, yang disebut oleh Syekh Muhammad Al-Ghazali isti'mar ruhi wa fikri. Bukan saja isti'mar atau penjajahan negara, tetapi penjajahan pemikiran dan jiwa. Atau yang dikupas di sini salah seorang filsuf kita, Profesor Muhammad Naqib Al-Atas, bahawa penjajahan dan sistem yang dipaksakan itu ke atas kita mau merubah rupa dan jiwa masyarakat kita. Snok Hugronje di Indonesia yang mewakili sosok sarjana Islam terkenal, menulis dua karya terbesar, The Acehers, The Acehnese, pergi ke Mekah, Mekahul Mukarramah, tinggal di situ, kahwin dengan anak gadis Jawa, dan menulis 2 jilid buku mengenai orang Aceh, mengapa semangat mereka setelah pergi ke haji, kental semangat mereka membawa Islam. Dan kemudian beliau susuli dengan buku Mekah in the later part of the 20th century. Ya, Mekah di akhir abad ke-20. Dan apa yang diusulkan yang kemudian diperkenalkan sebagai ethical policy di Indonesia ialah sistem yang akan mengekalkan orang Indonesia sebagai orang Indonesia, tapi jiwa mereka dan sistem pemikiran mereka mestilah mengikut acuan Belanda. Ini juga dilakukan oleh Sir Stamford Raffles di Tanah Melayu dan di Singapura, dan dia pernah menulis satu notes on the establishment of Malay College in Malaya. Kebetulan bukan Malay College Golkar, tapi mungkin idea itu masuk. Iaitu kita latih anak-anak muda Melayu ini biar pintar bahasa Inggris, biar boleh jadi pejabat awam yang pintar, tapi tidak seperti KSN kerana dia dah faham. Tapi asalnya training itu adalah supaya warna kulit itu sawo matang, tapi jiwa di dalamnya kekal keinggrisan. Jadi kita warisi sistem begini. Jadi kalau kita dengar Islamophobia, dia tidak asing. Now let me continue. I'm sorry, just giving the summary in Bahasa because not only is it is the national language, but I think it is appropriate that my fellow Malaysians also understand and comprehend. What I intend to suggest and strongly advocate in this sort of discourse is a discourse. Thank you, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and IT for organizing the event. We are encouraging a reasoned discourse, a contestation of ideas, not enmity. That's why I started by differentiating between the fight against colonialism and imperialism, not the fight with the West or the East, or Christianity or Judaism or Hinduism or Confucianism or Taoism. It's a contestation of ideas to see what is wrong with our society. Why are we talking about ideology and religion devoid of humanity or humanitarian concerns and compassion? I alluded to the ideas of Edward Said, who wrote that phenomenal book on Orientalism, a devastating critique of Western academic prescriptions, that in every field of study, literature, language, social sciences, political science, always clouded with a strong prejudice, not only against Islam or the Arabs, about the other. Anything else except the Western liberal democracy or Judeo-Christian tradition is therefore less important. And he cited examples like Rudyard Kipling, for example, a brilliant novelist, and I can't deny the fact that I enjoyed immensely his writings, including Kim. But amazingly, it is only an Indian sociologist, this was also a colleague of Zainuddin Sardar, Ashish Nandi, who gave this powerful, sort of a compelling case against this particular mindset of prejudice or hatred. Rudyard Kipling grew up in India, mastered their languages and understand the cultures and religions of India, but came up as an extreme views on very colonial British outlook, looking down, condescending towards Indian religion, Indian culture, Indian language, and Indian civilization. It's an interesting phenomenon that Ashish Nandi then had this to present the case about this contestation between Rudyard Kipling and Sri Aurobindo. Zia's checking whether my memory is still intact. I'm ignoring the text anyway, so never mind. Now, Sri Aurobindo is a great Indian Hindu scholar. But he grew up in the UK. His mastery of the language, the English language, is unenviable. I mean, some of his speeches to me, the great orators, the eloquence of Muhammad Ali Jinnah and Jawaharlal Nehru is known. But in my little understanding and of these personalities, I would rate Aurobindo is much a greater polemics, and his mastery of the language is far superior. I hope the Indian or Pakistani commissioners don't take an issue against me on that. The pure. I know I'm Prime Minister, but I'm giving very frank personal account, not necessarily a government position. So I can understand the Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is very nervous every time I speak. But please bear with me. But so Aurobindo grew up, had his mastery of English language, literature, science, and politics, but came back to the ashram and became a very strong advocate of Indian nationalism, culture, and philosophy. It's interesting. So, Ashish Nandy gave you this brilliant account of this juxtaposition of ideas with these two giant personalities, and advocated discourse and understanding. I alluded to earlier Edward Said in his great book. You know, one of the known Israeli scholars, I think Kramer, when Edward Said published this Orientalism, became quite popular, tour de force in the academia, including in the West. I think he was professor of political science at Columbia University, am I right? Columbia or New York University? Columbia University, I think. And Martin Kramer from the Israeli University said, this is more compelling, more dangerous, more effective than even the Iran war, the Iran revolution. Because it actually questioned the whole notion of we, the imperialist powers and colonial masters, against them, against the other. You are an Arab, Mahdi Safir, you are the other. And which means you are lower. You are Indian, or you're an Arab, you are Muslim, then you are considered of a lower position, including the Turks. I can see. This according to the West. And this is by Edward Said, which to me, personally, I benefited immensely because it's very reasoned discourse, proper understanding of the issues raised, mainly in literature and anthropology and sociology. But this book by Dr. Anas, Sheikh Ali, published in London, extended beyond that traditional notion of literature, language, and culture, but entered into every facet, including cartoons, paintings, having that notion you are black, worst you are an Arab and a Muslim, you're never portrayed in a positive sense. So what do we do now in Islamophobia? Do we then just condemn the past? Imperialism, colonialism, at least to a major extent, is gone, although some new colonial thinking remains present. Don't worry, Foreign Minister, this is Anwar speaking, not... I can't help looking at the Foreign Minister and the Secretary General of the Foreign Ministry. He says, how are they going to explain to the other foreign ministers? That's their problem, not mine. I represent a different generation. I believe if there is a need, is a reasoned discourse, a contestation of ideas, not hatred and enmity. We in Malaysia takes a position, a very moderate position, understanding to work with everybody. I don't think we need to go on harping on the past excesses and injustices of the West, thinking that we are already good. I take a position that the reform of ideas and thinking is required in the West and also simultaneously required in the Muslim world. I will talk about internal dynamics of the Muslim society. How do we respond? I was in Pakistan many years back, more than a decade ago, after this Danish cartoons controversy exploded. And I saw so many burnings of motorcycles and houses, people are getting angry. So I said, how is it that our response is not according to Islam? The response must be in accordance with the maqasid of the Sharia, the higher objectives of the Sharia, maintain peace and justice. How do you respond? By burning your own motorcycles and houses and property because you are angry. So the level of and sophistication of understanding in education is also necessary, critical to the Muslim world. How do we respond? We respond like Edward Said. We respond like by popularizing this book by Dr. Anas. Or earlier on, in the case of Salman Rushdie, Ziauddin Sardar was being attacked by the Islamic Party MP as one of the liberal, secular, pro-West. I mean, this guy must be not only mediocre, completely ignorant. That this Zia and Mary Bin Davies, the late Mary Bin, produced again a brilliant, compelling critique of the satanic verses by Salman Rushdie. But of course, he doesn't use the same terms and nuances like some of the traditional Islamists. He doesn't then, therefore, create the impression that they are therefore liberal and plural and anti-Islam. But this is also the danger, as I say, for the Muslim community. I was asked by the Muslim party organization in Pakistan, because I had an appointment with the Majlis Shura of Jamaat Islami, and they asked, Anwar, why are you now seen or perceived to be defending the cartoon and condemning our reaction? I said, I did not condemn because I did not support. I condemn the cartoonists for being ignorant, for being barbaric in their ways, you see, for no respect and no understanding. I wouldn't want to allow any Malaysian to go and abuse the Christians or the Hindus or the Buddhists in this country. But similarly, I do condemn. But then I was critical of the reaction. But the reaction is not consistent with the spirit of Islam. It's through understanding and knowledge and take a position. So there was a position then, and it is somewhat similarly here. I differentiate between, in our response to Islamophobia, which is a problem now even, the rise of fascism in Europe, the rise of the rightists, so-called, in the States, is, of course, an issue of concern to us. Because they will generalize all non-Western with some sort of a prejudice, and worse, among those who profess to be Muslims and trying to live up to these high ideals and standards of Islamic culture and society. So Islamophobia is real, it must be addressed. I had a very interesting conversation with Martin Rutte, the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, and I'm impressed by his willingness to work together, he acknowledging, yes, there is that concern in many of us in Europe. So the idea of talking West as West, Europe as Europe, all are faces. And this is also a problem. Stems from ignorance and intolerance in our society. So when it comes to Islamophobia, I think we must be able to continue to have the strength, the courage to continue to engage in the East and the West. That's one part which we have to deal with. But I am concerned also about our reaction, even in this country, because we have to differentiate. In this country, Alhamdulillah, we don't have that problem with terrorist cells. I must thank the relevant agencies, the intelligence agencies, the police, the armed forces for being very vigilant in this. But we do have this simmering extension among the purveyors of violence. Those who disagree with us are kafir, and they categorize kafir as harbi, which means you're at war with Islam. Those who disagree with us, some of them will surely go to hell. I mean, some of us who agree or disagree, going to hell or heaven, I wouldn't know. You see? But these are what I consider as purveyors, trying to then give a reason. We have to be strong, committed Muslims, otherwise Islamophobics will take over this country. So the purveyors of violence is also an issue that we have to be on guard. Otherwise, it will be too late. Now, the same Edward Said, which I've popularized his writings quite a bit. I don't get any commission from his writings. But it's a short article, which I think if the foreign minister allow, will be sent to friends. I mean, we email PDF, because it's short, at the 8-9 page. Because he talks about, which is very, to me, very pertinent in our discourse. He said, in response to Samuel Huntington's Clash of Civilizations, that ultimately is a Western liberal democracy. Now, mind you, many of the Western so-called liberal democracy are also declining in their positions. But he took, to me, in that thesis, is more balance. There are a lot of strength in the West that we must continue to take advantage of, because there are many. I used to teach at Georgetown University and science. I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's West or white or Christian or black or Muslim. Humanity. It's the compassion, justice. And I've sensed that. Therefore, I normally in my speeches, I avoid this tendency to portray West as West, East as East, and then, or the Christian world, this, to my mind, can be dangerous. It can be used by others, but we should not. We should try and engage. Now, in his critique of the Huntington's thesis of Clash of Civilization, Edward Said wrote this piece and published it in the Atlantic, if I'm not mistaken, entitled Clash of Ignorance. It's interesting, because the so-called academics, scholars, thinkers of the West, they assume they understand Islam from the texts that they read, not the willingness to study in an objective sense. Now, if I want to study Christianity or Hinduism here in this case, then you got to go through the text, the Bhagavad Gita, or in Christian text, either version of King James Version, I had to read. Now, I have an additional advantage. I have a lot of time to read because I was in prison for a long time. So when I ask some of the professors, they can compete because they're 10 solid years of reading and nothing else. So, Edward Said, critique is important. is clash of ignorance. It's not only the West, even the Muslim world. Sometimes the way we respond, like our response to the cartoonist issue, or our response to even this burning of the Quran, is just madness. It's condemning the whole continent, or all whites, or all Christians. It's stemming from a strong prejudice, ignorance. So Edward Said suggests, you want to resolve and enter into this discourse, which I call Madani because it's more comprehensive. Cultural empowerment, economic empowerment, cultural empowerment, and social empowerment. So that's Madani is in brief. Otherwise, you have to read script. I think, Foreign Minister, have you sent the ambassadors the script? He has not done so. And you know the problem, micro-elition? He represents the other party. No. I'm joking. He is a stalwart in the cabinet, very committed to this. Thank you very much. But I'm not joking the fact that he's Secretary General of Barisan Nasional. And the president, the chairman is here. And Edward Said, he said, we, the Muslims also, lack this understanding. Yes, there's gross injustice. Look at the fate of the Palestinians. To me, it's mind-boggling. I can't understand how we as human beings can tolerate this. I have a difficulty, if at all anyone can just help me out, I don't know. And people are being killed, their houses are being taken away. Oh no, it's a 2,000-year history. What's going to happen to Malaysia? Everybody talks about 2,000-year history. There's no place to many of us. But the answer is, of course, a reasoned discourse. So Edward Said suggests that, therefore, why don't we, the Muslims, understand them, the others, and they too try and understand us, and stop this madness, this crazy profiling people according to their race or their religion or where they come from. Well, it is a major task. It'll be easier said than done. I hope I'm more successful. Even I'm struggling with this, to try and convince my colleagues on, particularly from various parties and religious denominations, can we just try and engage? When I said, let us have a Madani discourse, he said, no, Madani discourse is Western, secular, liberal. Because Anwar must have taken it from John Locke, Ziauddin Sardar, Amartya Sen. Amartya Sen is a great political economist, very passionate about poverty and inequality. And suddenly he's been dumped as a liberal, secular. Therefore, must be rejected at all costs. These are trends. It's affecting the minds of many Malaysians too, particularly the young. That is why I have strongly urged government missionaries, agencies, you want to ensure that Malaysia survive as a united, multiracial, multicultural country, it must be through understanding and respect. There's a verse of the Quran that talks about differences, sects and tribes and languages, through lita'arafu, through understanding and appreciating and knowing one another, not through a condescending view or displaying arrogance towards each other. So in conclusion, do you believe that Islamophobia should continue as a firm belief? No. Must we do more? Yes. You know, in the Alliance of Civilizations, I think supported by the United Nations, Spain and Turkey has started this remarkable initiative. I attended one major conference in Turkey on Islamophobia. But I would encourage in our future sessions to get a team, experts representing Islam, the other religions, particularly those in Malaysia, and the West. Because there are many, to my mind, many scholars, academicians in the West, or from the West, who do not share that prejudice, hatred for the other. And I think this sort of exchanges, to my mind, would be useful. And of course, Tripartite, which I've been associated for a long time, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which has just been recently associated, would actually form this new alliance to try and promote this, not necessarily in huge international conferences, but to get this level of understanding. It is so critical that we in Malaysia set that example, because though we are all Malaysians, not Western, but we are very strongly influenced sometimes with the Western thought, and we need to be open to benefit from everyone. But ultimately, as the great Algerian thinker stated, it must be indigenous thought, which means it must come from within, getting the best from all other cultures and technology. America's leading, Europe, China, or India, but then remaining as a Muslim or as a Malay, but very Malaysian. So sekali lagi ucap terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you. Jadi ucapan ataupun keynote speech yang disampaikan oleh Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri. Begitu syarat ucapannya, antara yang kita boleh rumuskan apa yang dikongsikan berkenaan dengan ini. Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri telah pun menjangkakan dan juga memberi bayangan akan lebih banyak wacana berkaitan dengan perkara ini. Bukan sahaja dalam soal Islamophobia, terkait juga pelbagai isu lain. Antaranya berkaitan dengan melawan imperialisme, melawan ketidakadilan terhadap Islam. Dan ketika ini terus kita bawakan kepada anda gimmick dan pelancaran buku yang dimaksudkan oleh Dato Seri Anwar Ibrahim, iaitu Bias in Popular Culture, The Power of Visual and Linguistic Narratives. Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri akan menurunkan tanda tangan beliau sebagai gimmick dan juga secara rasminya buku Bias in Popular Culture, The Power of Visual and Linguistic Narratives secara rasminya dilancarkan dan turut disaksikan oleh kedua-dua Yang Amat Berhormat Timbalan Perdana Menteri, Yang Berhormat Menteri Luar dan juga Yang Berusaha Ketua Setiausaha Negara. Itu dia, tanda tangan telah pun diturunkan, maka bermakna pelancaran buku Bias in Popular Culture, The Power of Visual and Linguistic Narrative telah pun selamat dirasmikan, dan ini dia buku yang telah pun dipegang oleh Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri. Jadi satu bahan bacaan penting untuk kita memahami bagaimana bias in popular culture ataupun pandangan yang bias ini terhadap budaya yang pelbagai ini, the power of visual ataupun kuasa visual itu sendiri, dan juga linguistik, cara penceritaan yang dinarratifkan terhadap Islam itu sendiri.
Sebelum menghadapi banjir, peka terhadap amaran banjir,